Hi there everyone, Dr. Peak here. Welcome to Psych Solutions, where we discuss all things mental health. In this video, we'll cover the concept of functioning, which basically is the question, how are you? And one unforgettable question from a patient that left me nearly speechless. When someone asks, how are you? We often respond with answers like fine, good, tired, busy. These are the most socially acceptable default answers. Yet I've found over the years that sometimes we don't know how to gauge how we truly are. If our functioning prevents us from engaging with our core values in life, this can lead to unnecessary suffering and mental health consequences. We all want to feel good enough to connect with our people, perform well at work, have the bandwidth for fun, nature, creativity, etc. The inertia of life, with the expectations and pressures of adulthood, often create barriers to self-reflection and taking care of ourselves. I love this meme because it illustrates in a humorous way how the nature of stressful conditions can desensitize us over time. We grow numb or callous to struggle, which won't serve us long term. I'd like to share a practice-shifting question I was asked by a patient a few years ago. This particular patient sought out treatment after years of struggling with depression and anxiety. After multiple sessions, we concluded she also had symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder and was using alcohol to cope, which was causing her anxiety and depression to worsen over time. So in the middle of a session, she looked at me and asked, "Dr. Peak, is life supposed to feel this hard?" I was speechless for a bit. I wanted to answer honestly, in a way that would serve her best. I try not to BS patients, and I'm fine with saying I don't know, yet I knew how I answered mattered to her. She was sitting on the edge of her seat waiting, and I just stared back, wheels turning and heart wide open to her. My eventual answer was completely honest, but also completely inadequate. I said yes and no. This moment with a dear patient was the beginning of my interest in the practice of resilience. Without question, challenges will present in our lives and they will keep showing up. They appear in all shapes and sizes, ranging from minor practical inconveniences to trauma. This patient's question sparked some curiosity. Why do some people seem to bounce back from adversity easier and quicker than others? Can a person learn some level of immunity to life circumstances? And how are we making life more difficult on a societal and individual level? The next session with the patient, I asked her to get very specific about how she was currently doing and functioning. We looked at areas of functioning and discovered she was moving in between surviving and struggling throughout her weeks and days. The medication and behavioral changes she was making were preventing crisis, but she was yet to experience days of thriving. It helps to think of functioning on a spectrum, and where we are can change throughout the day, throughout the year, and certainly throughout a lifetime. We don't have to fit neatly into one area. Sometimes we can be in between. And naturally, the goal is to spend as much time thriving as possible, but life inevitably brings challenges and stress. Our mental health symptoms wax and wane, and access to help and treatment is not equitable in this country. Feeling in crisis is the most severe and uncomfortable. When we are in crisis, we feel disabling distress and loss of functioning. We may have panic attacks, nightmares, and flashbacks. We are unable to fall asleep or stay asleep. We may have intrusive thoughts, even thoughts of self-harm. We might complain of making careless mistakes and find concentrating nearly impossible. Here, life often feels out of control and we can feel lost. Withdrawal from relationships and feeling isolated is common. We might develop a dependence on substances, food, or other numbing activities like screens. If you are in the crisis level of functioning right now, please reach out to family, friends, and mental health professionals. If you are having thoughts of self-harm, please call a crisis line or 911 and seek support. I will link some resources below, including the National Crisis Line, and most counties have local lines that can connect you to the appropriate area resources. In the struggling level of functioning, a person will feel persistent fear and anxiety, severe sadness, hopelessness, or anger. We feel exhausted, and performance at work and home suffers. We find it difficult to concentrate and make decisions. We self-medicate occasionally with substances or food or other numbing activities. We may avoid interaction with coworkers, family and friends, and relationships suffer. We may start to suffer from health issues like fatigue or aches and pains. Appetite is either increased or decreased from baseline, and we have restless and disturbed sleep. In the surviving level of functioning, a person might feel anxious or down more often. Mood fluctuates more. We feel tense, perhaps unmotivated, low on energy. Sleep is troublesome, and appetite is either decreased or increased. We feel more easily agitated or overwhelmed and have difficulty adjusting to changes. Hobbies and interests are less enjoyable and maybe even stressful. Relationships can struggle here too because of difficulty communicating and just not having the bandwidth for connection. If we are thriving, we generally feel calm and content with mild mood shifts. We take chores and conversations in stride. We can adapt to feedback, focus on work, connect intimately with loved ones, communicate openly and effectively. We sleep well, appetite is normal. We find pleasure in our hobbies and interests. We have emotional bandwidth to enjoy life. This does not necessarily mean these individuals are not paying attention to the world around them. Thriving does not mean keeping your head in the sand. We can even experience pockets of thriving during seasons of surviving or struggling. Combining needed mental health treatment and the practice of building resilience are the keys to leveling up on this spectrum of functioning to spend more time thriving. Resiliency does not mean skipping over grief or any emotion. Quite the opposite. Individuals are born with unique levels of inherent resilience, and the conditions of our childhood and adolescence determine if this capacity increases or decreases into adulthood. As we grow up and move through life, inevitably challenges are faced. Rarely does a person make it into adulthood without difficulties, adverse experiences, or trauma. Depending upon our ability to bounce back, our responses to these events influence our functioning in dramatic and subtle ways. We will be discussing resilience practices in depth in future videos. Consider spending time checking in with yourself about how you are functioning currently and throughout the past year. It's been a tough season for all of us. In our next video, we will look at how to find good fit mental health professionals. Psychiatrists, psychologists, and therapists are widely available, especially with the onset of telehealth practices throughout the pandemic. Yet it can often be difficult to connect with resources that align with your specific needs, your personality, and your philosophy on treatment. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching and listening. If you like this content and want to learn more about the practice of resilience in future videos, please subscribe below. See you next time.